It's a very good reminder that I should turn off my own phone.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this forum for the candidates in the special election for the Minnesota House seat 40B. Thank you for taking the time to view this forum, whether tonight in person, we have a nice group here, or on cable TV or the internet between tonight and January 28th. As far as we know at this time, that's still the date for the special election. Both of the candidates running in this special election were invited to participate in this forum. One is with us in person. As a courtesy to candidates who are unable to attend a forum, the League may read a statement submitted by the absent candidate. A forum like this one was held in the fall for the then candidates for House Seat 40B. A recording of that forum can be linked to through either the League of Women Voters Roseville Area website, LWV Roseville Area, all one word, .org, or the 9 North website, 9north.org. My name is Florence Sprague. I will be the moderator tonight. I'm a League-trained moderator, a member of the League of Women Voters Roseville Area, and a resident of Maplewood. Love them or hate them, I don't get to vote on tonight's candidates. The League of Women Voters encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. Our membership is open to any person who is 16 years of age or older. The League is proud to be nonpartisan, neither supporting nor opposing candidates or political parties at any level of government. We ask that no campaign buttons or campaign attire be worn in this room, and that no signs or literature be distributed within the room. Campaign literature may be made available on the table outside. Please remain as quiet as possible while the candidates are speaking so that everyone can hear. And please hold your applause until the end of the forum, keeping the time for the candidates. All opinions presented tonight are those of the candidates and not those of the League of Women Voters. The goal of forums like this is to provide a venue for the voters to hear the positions of the candidates on issues of import to us all and to learn about their qualifications. This forum is being broadcast by 9 North and recorded for later viewing by the public. Check their website for the rebroadcast schedule. It is the League's policy to record and post the entire candidate forum without editing, so that the public will see the event in its entirety and not just selected scenes or sound bites. Excerpts or edited clips of candidate forums may not be used for partisan or political purposes. Before we begin, we all have one last chance to make sure that our cell phone ringers are turned off. Thank you. We'll begin with opening statements of up to 2 minutes for each candidate before we go to the question and answer period. Questions that we're using tonight were mailed in either before the fall forum, before this forum, or audience members can write them on little cards, and we'll try and get as many of those covered as we can. Okay. This forum was originally scheduled for 1 hour, but it may end before that time with only one speaker. Okay. Okay. Oh, more questions. Thank you. Okay. So now we'll get to the candidates. There are 2 candidates running for the Minnesota House seat 40B, David Gottfried, to my right, and Paul Wickstrom. Let's begin the opening statements. The timer's ready. Okay. The first opening will be from David Gottfried.
Sure. Hello. First of all, I want to say thank you for everyone being here today and engaging in this process. Thank you to League of Women Voters for providing this venue for everyone to be able to hear the candidates' visions for this particular district and for the state of Minnesota. My name is David Gottfried. I am running as the DFL endorsed candidate for the upcoming special election in House District 40B on January 28th. I was born and raised in this district, not more than a block and a half, 2 blocks maybe, that way on Hamlin. And when it came time for me to lay down roots with my wife, I knew this is where I wanted to do so. I wanted to give back to the community that had given me so much over my life. And so when this opportunity came up to run, I thought this is a natural extension of my public service, my call to public service, and a great way for me to, again, give back to the people in this community that had given me so much throughout my entire life. I'm running because I want to make life more affordable for Minnesotans. I want to do that through lowering the cost of prescription drugs, bringing healthcare to all Minnesotans, protecting Minnesota itself from climate change, and building a future for our children for our children and my children in particular. I want to build a world where I want to bring children into it. Lastly, I want to strengthen our unions. I've been a union member my entire life. Well, not my entire life, excuse me. I should say that. Correction. I've been a union member for the past 11 years. Almost half of my life. And I want to fight for working class families wherever I possibly can. With that, I just want to say thank you to everyone here, everyone watching online, and I'll cede the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now read the opening statement submitted by Paul Wickstrom. Good evening. I'm Paul Wickstrom, and I'm running for House District 40B. I have lived in the district for 28 years, married to my wonderful wife, Liz, and we have raised 3 children in the district. Thank you for the invitation to attend the 2025 House District 40B League of Women Voters Forum. I attended the 2024 General Election Forum with my previous DFL opponent Curtis Johnson on September 17th. Curtis Johnson was later disqualified as a result of our election contest because he was not a resident of House District 40B, resulting in this special election. What do I stand for? My underlying 2025 platform is unchanged from 2024. Make Minnesota an affordable place to live, reduce crime rates and improve community safety, improve our public educational system. For those who would like to learn more about my position on the issues, you can watch my responses in the previous LWV forum video. The video can be found at wickstromforhouse.com under the media section, and 9 North website, which is https://9north.org/. I have a proven record of speaking the truth and confronting fraud to improve public transparency. I stand on the common sense platform. The government should serve the common good instead of a radical agenda. I am a proven leader, active listener, and problem solver. I believe that the state constitution is the stable will of the people, and I will respectfully work across the aisle to create a balanced, effective government for all Minnesotans. If elected, I will collaborate with my colleagues to fulfill the needs of the citizens of House District 40B. Thank you. Paul Wickstrom, candidate for House District 40B, Roseville and Shoreview. That is the opening statement, Mr. Wickstrom, from Mr. Wickstrom. Now we'll go on to the question and answer portion. And even though we have only one candidate in the room with us, I'm going to use questions that would be suitable for all candidates, and responses must be topical and about the speaker's views, not about another candidate. There'll be up to 2 minutes to respond to questions, and the timers are seated at the table in front of us. Okie dokie. So, question number 1. Constituents in this district are concerned about the academic achievement of K through 12 students in the schools, both locally and across the state. What legislative measures, if any, would you support to address the educational needs of children in Minnesota?
Thank you. Yeah. I don't think it's any question that we are struggling and facing some challenges in our education system right now. That was brought up in the last candidate forum, and I tend to agree with everything that was said about the problems that we face. One of the things that I think we are truly struggling with right now is a crisis of an educator shortage. The educators in our current public education system are grossly underpaid. They are not respected, and oftentimes they're very unsafe within the classroom. In order for us to really fix our public education system, we have to make sure that we are attracting public educators to this. Now, there's a couple ways that we can do this. one of the things that I think we need to do is make sure that the education that educators receive in order to be able to teach effectively yields them a salary that actually makes that education worth it. So I am as supportive of Ed Min's particular proposal to have a base pay of $60,000 per year for public educators in our state. Beyond that, we need to make sure that they have the support system around them. The education supports professionals within our particular school system are also grossly underpaid. I also am in support of $25 an hour base wages for education support professionals, so it is a livable wage for them and they can actually go about their business and help support educators within the classroom. I think these are critical things that we need to do as a legislature. I also believe that we need to fully fund the READ Act. We have not fully funded it, the training and implementation portion of it. Therefore, we don't actually know if it's efficacy. Seeing that my time is coming up, there's a lot I could talk about more, but I will leave it there for now. Thank you.
Thank you. While we are trying to work with the same question bank that Mr. Wickstrom has seen, I want to respect the interests of the audience that came out tonight. So following up on that education question, we have one from the audience. Considering the potential threat to public education posed by possible implementation of Project 25 in the view of the questioner, how would you protect public education in Minnesota? And perhaps I should have rephrased that, but.
So just to make sure I understand, how would I protect?
Let me just rephrase it.
Okay.
What do you think what impact do you think Project 2025 will have on education in Minnesota, and how would you respond?
Okay, thank you. I will admit I have not read all 900 some pages of Project 2025. It is intentionally created to be onerously long so that people skip over some of the truly heinous things that are inside of it. So I want to get that out in front. What I think here, what the question is alluding to is a general attack on public education that exists in the the movement to try to move towards private education, school vouchers, in some cases moving towards charter schools as well, and truly making it more difficult for students to have a level playing field in their education system, as well as providing them the particular tools to grow and succeed in life, and having us have a shared foundational sense of knowledge. I think that is the spirit of what the question is. What I would do to try to protect Minnesota from that: invest in public education. It's simple. Invest in public education, convene with teachers to talk about curriculum standards that oftentimes they find burdensome to teach and often conflict with each other. Bring teachers to the table, to have these discussions about what they're seeing on the ground in the classroom and what support that they need to succeed within this system so that our children can succeed, so that our children can effectively learn and have that same opportunity, no matter if you live in Edina, if you live in Roseville, or if you live in Minneapolis or anywhere else within the state. We need to have a world-class public education system. It is a pillar of democracy, and I will do what I can to defend it here in this state. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving in a different direction, increases in crime are a concern for those in the district. What ideas do you have to address any increase in crime in the area and ensure the safety of the community?
Sure. It is an issue. The statistics don't lie. Roseville does have an issue with more specifically theft. I think Mr. Wickstrom was right to cite that it was the third highest within the particular metro area outside of Minneapolis and St. Paul. That is a problem. How we fix it, I think, is where we differ. I heard cited in the last candidate forum a broken windows theory, which I think is outdated. It's the idea that you punish the small crimes so that larger ones don't occur. What actually happens is that it causes greater harm, traps people, historically marginalized people within a system that they can't escape from, and increases recidivism. I want to address crime at the root causes of it. Economic immobility, mental health issues, a general sense of hopelessness. When I was when I was going to getting my master's program at the University of Minnesota, I had the opportunity to work with the Peace Research Institute of Oslo, discussing and researching the determinants of civil unrest within society. And there are a lot of markers within the United States that exist that lead to civil unrest in many other countries, and there's no reason to think that we would be different. No wonder crime is high, sometimes is on the rise. So we need to address the roots of crime. Again, the sense of economic immobility. We need to fix that. We need to fix our mental health systems so that people can actually get the support to thrive and pull themselves out of a dark place. We need to invest in restorative justice measures to prevent the recidivism and a repeated cycle over and over of people getting trapped in and continually getting down on their luck because they can't escape this cycle. Thank you.
Thank you. Having heard the words mental health, I will use that question next.
Sure.
What legislative measures would you support, if any, so being more specific, to improve Minnesota's mental health system?
Sure. I think making it more accessible is probably the most important thing that we can do. Mental health care is health care. I have been a proud supporter of Senator John Marty's Minnesota Health Plan to institute single payer within this state. As a policy analyst, I want to say right off the bat, single payer works. The way that healthcare economics works is that if you expand the risk pool, the cost per person lowers. That's how healthcare economics works. And so instituting single payer across the state will work, and it will cover mental health costs and mental health care. Again, it is an access issue. So many folks that I know can't afford or can't even find a mental health practitioner, a therapist, a counselor, and we need to make that accessible to folks. And that starts with having single payer within this state. Beyond just working towards that aspirational policy, I do also want to say that we need to expand funding for youth programs to address mental health. Stop it at the source. You know, if as a young man, I went to counseling. That was an opportunity that was afforded to me that was not afforded to a lot of people, a lot of kids my age. We need to be able to expand resources for those. We can do that through NAMI, obviously, and increase funding to have some partnerships with them. And beyond that, for very critical and chronic we'll call mental illnesses. We also need to expand funding for supportive housing facilities. There's a lot of folks who struggle from mental illness that need some extra help to live a fulfilling life. And we need to be funding the facilities that help folks do just that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next topic, affordable housing, particularly for seniors who want to stay in their homes, is a concern for those in the district. What is the state's role, if any, in increasing affordable housing, and what specific action would you support if elected?
I think I'm going to broaden the question a little bit, and I understand that affordable housing for seniors that want to stay in their homes is critically important, and it is. Affordable housing is something that affects everybody, no matter whether you recognize it immediately or not. So, for example, my wife and I bought a home not terribly long ago, about a year or so ago, and it hurt. It was expensive, and that cuts across every age demographic, every demographic, quite frankly, and makes it far more difficult to transition in life from one phase into the next. Some specific things that I think that we can do in the legislature is to, frankly, get out of the way. We have a lot of zoning codes within statewide that prohibit some municipal governments from having mixed-use lots that would create more affordable housing options, in addition to more resilient communities by being able to, instead of driving 10 minutes to go to your doctor or go to the grocery store, walking a block away. That's one area that I think we could improve on is kind of opening up the doors for municipal governments to have those mixed use lots. Beyond just that, I think we need to prevent corporations from buying up all the single family homes within the area. That is a predatory practice that has been proven to increase housing prices for young folks, for older folks, for quite frankly, everybody. We need to hold them to account and make sure that they are not stealing up the market and jacking up prices for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. As a follow-up on that, one aspect of affordability in homeownership is taxation.
Mm-hmm.
What is the state's role in regulating the tax burden on homeowners?
That's a difficult question. And frankly, I don't know at this point if I have a very, very firm response to that. I am eager to learn more. I know most of the time property taxes are set by municipal governments, but I'm going to say that I have the intellectual humility to acknowledge that I don't know quite enough to answer that. But I'm happy to learn more, and I'm happy to get back to you when I do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now I'll just give you a nice, big, wide one. What should be Minnesota's spending priorities in the next 2 years?
Well, I think in the next 2 years, we have to be cognizant of the fact that we are going to be operating, assuming, knock on wood, there's not much wood around me, but knock on wood, if I prevail in this election, we will be operating under a 67-67 tie in the House between the Democrats and Republicans. That means that no matter what happens, you need at least one person to cross party lines to pass legislation. You need 68 votes. So no matter what we do, it has to be with bipartisan support. So again, this isn't the next 2 years. Really, we have to be realistic about what we can do. I do think that there are some areas where we could find bipartisan measures, despite everything that's going on right now at the Capitol. I think we could find some bipartisan measures surrounding mental health, surrounding lowering the cost of prescription drugs within the state, using the templates of the Alex Smith Insulin Affordability Act that was passed 2 years ago, I believe. I think it was 3 years ago, 4 years ago at this point, 2021. I apologize. I think those are the things. We have to get a bonding bill through. We have to make sure that we are making sure that we're maintaining our roads and bridges and providing jobs for the trades in those regards. I think these are areas that we can find bipartisan support for and make sure that we're taking care of our state. Beyond that, I think we need to focus on, as I said, making life more affordable for folks. And I think that comes with raising wages. Again, I'm a big labor guy. I will do what I can within the legislature to support the labor movement, making sure that we are promoting good union jobs within this state. The way that we make life more affordable is by raising wages as well. Thank you.
Thank you. The cost of health care is a challenge for many Minnesotans. How will you address health care affordability and access?
I think I've spoken on this a little bit in some of my previous answers, so I won't expand on it too much. But I have talked about wanting to lower the cost of prescription drugs. I would refer back to that answer. And again, single payer. John Marty's Minnesota Health Plan. Single payer works. Single payer is less expensive for the consumer. For the health, no, sorry, not consumer. I don't want to call people who require health care consumers because they're not. The people who need care. It is less expensive for the people who need care. So those are measures that I would support certainly going forward. Having already spoken on them at some length, I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Focusing in on one particular area of health care, Minnesota statute guarantees Minnesotans' right to make decisions regarding their reproductive health care free from interference by the state. Mm-hmm. Would you support legislative measures to continue or modify this statute, particularly when it comes to access to contraception, in vitro fertilization, and medical abortion? It's
a broad question that allows for responses that could either restrict or maintain or expand around reproductive health care rights. So what I will say is that I will defend reproductive health care rights within this state. I want to pass the ERA, which would be a part of that battle. I want to make sure that folks have access to in vitro fertilization if that is what they require. I don't want to trust the court decisions around this in the state. I think Doe versus Gomez was cited in the last candidate forum, but as we have seen in the fall of Roe v. Wade, at the national level, we can't always trust the courts to get it right. We need to have a constitutional amendment that protects us, which is why I want to pass the ERA and send it to a ballot measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Going back a bit to education. Some states have enacted laws requiring books in school libraries to be reviewed or approved by the state and allowed individuals to file complaints to remove books based on personal objections. Would you support legislative measures allowing for similar laws in Minnesota?
The state government has no place in determining what children can and cannot read. That is not the role of our state government. Schools, public libraries, schools all have processes in place to go address some of those concerns and make sure that children who are reading books are reading age-appropriate books for their education. There's no reason why the state should dictate that. None.
Okay, thank you. Okay, here's a bit of a change. There were numerous questions submitted on various aspects of laws controlling access to guns. What legislative measures would you support, if any, in regards to access to guns?
Sure. So Minnesota already has relatively robust gun safety laws. There are a couple of areas where I think we are still lacking. The House last year, 2 years ago, I believe it was just last year, passed the Representative Becker Finn's safe gun storage laws. I don't think it has passed the Senate. I would like to see that pass the Senate so that becomes an actual law. And if we need to, for whatever reason, reintroduce the bill at any point, I would be happy to carry that as a legislator. Beyond that, one of the areas where we do have a gap within our gun safety laws is surrounding the mandatory confiscation of weapons from sites of domestic violence scenes. A lot of states who provide protections for victims of domestic violence by removing these weapons whenever they're called to a scene addressing a domestic violence issue. Minnesota does not have that. Considering that 56% of domestic violence homicides occur with a firearm, I think that is a significant oversight within our gun safety laws. That is something that I would like to carry within the legislature. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Many candidates talk about and campaign on working across the aisle. Caucus positions, however, often make this very difficult. Do you think you could go against caucus leadership on an issue if it would mean working on an issue that would benefit your district?
Yeah. Always put state in front of party. Always. That's how it should be. I want to be cognizant of the fact, though, right now, that from my perspective, we are seeing the we're seeing democracy usurped at the Capitol right now. There is a party that is trying not to seat a duly elected DFLer because they didn't like the election results that came in November. What is happening at the Capitol right now is a polite January 6th. And I don't want to mince words about that. This is a usurpation. That's not a word. This is usurping democracy. What is happening right now, and there is one party that is doing that. So while I will be willing to go against my party if it means for the betterment of the state and the people of the state and the people of my district, right now unity is what is required amongst the DFL party, because we are the ones that are protecting democracy in this state. Thank you.
Thank you. And on a related note, could you give us a little specifics about how you will approach your working style for working with people who may not have the same values that you have?
For sure, yeah. My door's open. I'm happy to listen to anybody so long as it's not hate-filled. I don't tolerate hate, but I will tolerate a different perspective. And that's what we need to move forward. We need to be able to listen to each other on the bread and butter issues in order to work in a bipartisan manner, in order to, and not to steal a phrase from our current president, but to heal the soul of our nation, we need to be able to listen to each other and to really, with open hearts. My door is open for anybody to come and talk to in good faith. I will not always agree, but I will make it clear when I do not agree with you. But I will do so respectfully, and I will shake your hand afterwards. Thanks.
Thank you. The next questioner is going a little bit further than just listening. Politicians are criticized for changing their opinions, but sometimes with new information, a change of opinion is valid. Can you tell us about a time when you changed your opinion about a policy and why?
Yeah. I used to not support the Minnesota health plan, and now I'm a pretty active supporter of it and pretty vocal supporter of it. I bought the I don't want to call it a line. I bought the rationale that there was a product involved in the healthcare industry. But when you break it down, the actual service, this thing that you are paying for, is the health care that your provider provides. And the insurance company really is only a gatekeeper to that care. It does not provide care of its own. I did an about face. I was all about, of course, I supported a public option. I still do if that's the best way forward so that we get universal coverage within Minnesota. But reframing just that small thing made me completely change my opinion on the Minnesota health plan, is that health insurance companies don't provide a product. They're a gatekeeper to the actual product. New information is required. And sometimes we're allowed to change our opinions when new information comes in. Thank you.
Thank you. Slightly different question here. What do you believe is District 40B's greatest strength or asset?
The people. Without a doubt. I have never met such kind people everywhere I've gone. For example, growing up, our next door neighbor, the Larsons, to this day will still snowplow everybody in like a several house radius around them. If Nate gets up, and before it was his dad, Tim, they, and that behavior is seen everywhere within this district. I see it where I moved with my wife in the shore, just the Southern Shoreview area, folks doing that for other folks, the people. And it didn't matter if we disagreed on politics or whatever. I saw a guy down the street, had a Trump sign in his yard, go and plow the driveway of somebody who had a Harris Wall sign. It's the people of this district. That's our greatest strength.
Thank you. Okay, another change of direction. What areas of government, if any, would you like to reform? And how should these reforms be financed?
I think Mr. Wickstrom brought up a good point about fraud. He talks about fraud. And I know I'm not supposed to talk about him, but I want to say that actually I, in many ways, agree that we need to make sure that the money that we spend is going where it needs to go. We do need to make sure that our programs are effective. We do need to, and listen, I clearly want to institute some programs within government, but I want to make sure that they are effective, which means that they need to be audited, which means that we need to make sure that they are doing what their intended purpose is. And so I want to make sure that for the agencies that we have in place, and the programs that we put in place, that we have an iterative way of making sure that they are delivering what we want them to deliver. And I think we don't have enough of that right now in our particular government. Thank you.
Thank you. The next one is climate. What do you see as the impact of climate change in Minnesota, And what specific legislative initiatives would you support to combat climate change?
So climate change is a huge deal. That's putting it very lightly. So when I was, not to go too in the weeds, when I was getting my master's program, I did a research project where I studied, based off of worst case scenario projections, a county by county analysis throughout the entirety of the United States of what would happen, the net economic damages that would occur within each county across the entire nation. And central and southern Minnesota, we actually came out okay. Northern Minnesota actually benefited. Whereas the vast majority of southern states were going to be devastated. After doing that research, I very quickly came to the conclusion that Minnesota is going to be one of the states that becomes a climate refuge. We are going to have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people coming up here in the next 20, 30 years. And we need to start building for that now. That means climate resilience. We need to have measures, work with the county government, to develop climate resilience measures. One of the things that I worked on with Met Council when I was in my grad school program was the installation of what they called biosolar systems on top of houses. This is a combination of green roofs and solar panels that not only helped insulation of the homes, but also provided energy inputs. And that is something that I'd like to see across the state in the houses that are applicable. It increases climate resiliency, reduces urban heat islands, makes us less dependent on fossil fuels. Overall, it's an incredible program for us. There are many other things: expanding the green fleet, expanding access to public transportation, investing in diverse sources of renewable energy. All of these things are going to be required, in addition to bolstering our infrastructure for what I truly believe will be an influx of people, in the next 20 or 30 years. With that, I've been told to stop, and so I shall.
Okay. In supporting the Minnesota economy, would you emphasize reforming tax policies, addressing income inequality, or another factor?
I don't think those first two things are mutually exclusive. It was kind of answered in the last session as though they were a binary to each other and you couldn't have one without the other. But I think you can address income inequality and reform tax policy. I think I have a different view than my opponent would about what needs to be done with taxes. I have a view that we need to continue working on truly a progressive tax model. Specifically around, investment income taxes, tax on interest earned, rental earnings, estate taxes, so on and so forth, to truly pay for some of the things that I think that our state should be doing. I do also think that, to Wickstrom's credit, I think we should be auditing our programs and making sure that they are delivering the most effective service possible. But also we need to be increasing wages. I think that is how we increase income equality within the state, is by increasing wages. There's been a lot of false narratives going around about how spending is driving tax policies, increasing cost of living and things like that. That really isn't what happened. We experienced inflation during the COVID-19 pandemic because of pent-up demand, and this was a universal thing across the globe, which isn't how inflation should work. The only way that we can combat it is not through deflation by lowering the prices of groceries or anything like that. That is what a recession is. What we need to do is increase wages to match with how expensive things have gotten. Wages have stagnated, and I want to make sure that teachers, grocery store workers, the person working the gas station down the road, all of us can live in this state, in this country, and enjoy a life with dignity. And that comes by increasing our wages. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next one's another big one. What kinds of policies, if any, will you pursue to promote social and racial justice in our community?
It's quite simple. The most profound thing that we could do is pass the ERA legislation that puts it to a ballot measure to be enshrined in our Constitution. That is the number one thing that we could do. Beyond that, I am a policy analyst. The things that, when I have a piece of legislation put in front of me, I need to be analyzing it through the lens of race. I want to point to what happened down in the Rondo neighborhood with the I-94 corridor that just absolutely destroyed that neighborhood, vibrant neighborhood. And it was an oversight or a lack of compassion. And either way, somebody didn't look at that policy and say, how is this going to have an effect on the diverse and beautiful community of Rondo down there? Somebody didn't do that, and it got utterly gutted. I promise, as a policy analyst, that I will include social justice, racial justice as a lens through which I analyze policy, every policy that crosses my desk, to make sure that we are considering that whenever we have a signature project that we are putting up. That is my promise to the people of District 40B, and that is my promise to the people of the state of Minnesota. Thank you.
Thank you. Going back to spending, for a while, we had a large surplus, and the large surplus has now turned and is heading towards, they say, we shall see, a deficit. Would you raise taxes to continue programs that were funded with surplus money? That's one way of looking at it. And then another questioner says, what measures would you support to curb government spending? So thinking about the cycle of surplus, deficit, how do we balance these things out?
Sure. I think it's too soon. It is a great Republican talking point about how we're going towards a deficit. The fact of the matter is we haven't gotten the forecast yet. We haven't. That doesn't come out until the end of February. So I really do think it's premature to be talking about as if we're heading to a deficit until we know. What I will say is that we need to see some of these programs through to test their efficacy. Because if they are a net benefit to society, then the taxes may be worth it. For example, if I pay $1,000 into a particular program, that's a made-up number that doesn't relate to anything, just to be very, very clear. But if I paid $1,000 into, I don't know, a program that supported social housing or something like that, and the net benefit of that came out to be $1,400. Sure, I paid in $1,000, but the net benefit of that from just me was a net benefit of $400. So we need to be looking at these things holistically as a whole economy, a socio-political economy, not just like money in, money out. We have to look at it from a holistic perspective while we balance the budget. And I think that is important. And I will keep that in mind because we need to have our programs be feasible and implementable. But again, I think talking about heading towards a deficit is too soon at this point because we frankly don't have the budget cast in front of us.
Thank you. Moving to transportation. What legislative action do you think is most important to move forward related to transportation?
Yeah, this kind of feeds into my firmly held belief that we will become a climate refuge and experience an influx of great population in the next 20 to 30 years. But I think we need to start building infrastructure for greater, more robust public transportation around the Twin Cities and in Duluth as well. What that particularly looks like, working specifically in the metro area, Met Council has a lot of programs that are fantastic. Metro Mobility is one of them. I think we need to be expanding the buses and the frequency of that Metro, words got tied up in my mouth. I apologize. We need to be expanding the buses that are used within the Metro Mobility program so that folks have faster response times, can get to where they need to go. I do also think that we need to start expanding bus routes and frequencies in areas north of County Road C because it does take a huge amount of time to get to downtown Minneapolis if you have to take, public transportation is somewhere in Shoreview. It takes a huge amount of time. Beyond that, and this is probably aspirational, but I do think that we actually need to be investing in a rail system not only the one that, travels from here to up to Duluth or over to other, major cities in the Midwest, but I think we need to have expand, routes for the light rail in anticipation of our population in this Twin Cities area, and then also up in Duluth, expanding rather rapidly in a short amount of time in the next, again, as I said, 20 or 30 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the state have a role in regulating questions regarding sports and gender?
No.
Okay, that was quick. Okay, I'm going to a couple of other quick ones. Can you use 3 words to describe yourself?
I strongly dislike talking about myself, so I apologize. This is going to be difficult for me. Curious, respectful, and empathetic.
Okay, thank you. And one that I always like to hear that is, what is the non-work related reading you're doing these days?
Okay, all right. So the greatest fantasy author of this particular century is Brandon Sanderson, and I will hear no other names. He has just released his 5th book in what is going to be a 10-book magnum opus. Each one is over 1,000 pages long, and I am riveted the entire time. Start with The Way of Kings. You will not be disappointed. It is amazing. I have cried during every single book. Check it out. It's great.
Okay. At the national level, there's a lot of talk about election finance reform. What about here in Minnesota? Do we need election finance reform? Should there be more public financing or more regulations or?
Yeah, I mean, so I think what the question is getting at is the money that flows into politics, and other countries in the world, have, as you referenced, publicly financed elections, oftentimes way shorter elections than we have now, because you only have a certain amount of money in which you can do your campaigning. Frankly, I think it's better. I think that's better. You look at the last presidential election and billions of dollars were spent on this race, which could have been spent in any other way. So if we ever get to a place where there'd be the votes to have reforms that make it publicly financed, that limited the amount of money that we could have flowing into these campaigns from private sources, I would 100% be in support of that. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, you've given us a lot of areas that you're interested in, and now we want to narrow it down. What will be your number 1 priority when you're in the legislature if you were elected?
I'm going to cheat and give 2 answers. And the reason for that is one is because one is the realistic answer of navigating a 67-67 tie in the House if I were to win. So in that, I think it would be mental health supports. I think that is the area in which we can find bipartisan progress. And I think that's the realistic answer for the next 2 years, given the particular split nature of the House. So that's my first answer and the realistic one. The aspirational answer is increasing that infrastructure that I keep talking about preparing for us to become a climate refuge. So that's the aspirational answer, but my very realistic answer, given the next 2 years, is increasing mental health supports.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes the question and answer portion of the forum. If we didn't talk about your area of interest, please reach out to the candidates. And to find out more, you can look at their websites or contact them individually. And we'll now go to closing statements. That will again be, yours will be limited on, mine will be limited on paper, yours will be limited on 2 minutes. I will read Mr. Wickstrom's first, since we usually do these in reverse order. The words I will read are the opinions of candidate Wickstrom, not the League of Women Voters again. Truth has been given a second chance. Let's restore a balanced government. I have spoken the truth to the residents of Minnesota House District 40B. Now I plan to rebuild trust with honest representation. I have pursued honesty and justice and have prevailed. Fraud has cost the taxpayers over $500 million in Minnesota. Mismanaged spending has caused the price tag to soar over $1 billion. Help me stop the cycle of fraud that is wasting our hard-earned money in Minnesota. I'd like to close with this quote by President Theodore Roosevelt. No man who is corrupt, no man who condones corruption in others can possibly do his duty to the community. Vote for me, Paul Wickstrom. Vote for trust and truth. WickstromForHouse.com is his website. And that was the closing statement submitted by candidate Paul Wickstrom. And now we go to the candidate, David Gottfried.
Y'all, thanks for being here. I really appreciate everybody in the room for showing up today. I think it's to quote another great politician, decisions are made by those who show up. I really appreciate everyone in the room today. Thank you for this forum to talk about our ideas. I do wish that Paul had been here. I do actually think that we agree on some of the problems that we face, more so than most might actually think. I think it's just we differ in how we might solve them. That being said, I am running because I have a skill set and I have a drive to help this community, to help our state, to give back to our community and to our state. I want to make life more affordable for Minnesotans. I want to lower those prescription drug costs. I want to address climate change, not just in the mitigation, but also resiliency measures. I want to support working families in our district. I want to support good union jobs. I want to support this district. I am David Gottfried. I am the DFL endorsed candidate for this district, House District 40B, and I please ask for your vote on January 28th. You can visit my website, david-gottfried.com. There's also campaign literature, not in the room, but outside, that you can pick up with that on there. If you go to our website, you will find more details. But I want to end with gratitude. Thank you all. And thank you for everybody watching. Have a good night.
And that, wait, now it's my turn.
Not yet.
Okay, so I thank you all. That wraps up our forum, and I would like to remind the audience that all opinions expressed tonight are those of the candidates and that the League of Women Voters does not endorse any candidate or party. I want to thank both of the candidates for stepping up to run for office. It's not easy, and it's a great responsibility. We need participation in all aspects of democracy for it to work, from informed voter to elected official. A special thanks to the candidate with us tonight for sharing his time, knowledge, and positions, and thanks to the audience for their attention and good questions. Thanks to the camera crew from 9 North and my league colleagues for making this all come together on very short notice. Remember to tell your friends and family to check out the 9 North website for the rebroadcast schedule. The League researches issues important to our members and to the health of our communities. If you are interested in finding out more about what we do and how you can also make a difference, please pick up a membership brochure at the registration table or visit us at lwvmn.org. Membership is open to anyone age 16 and older. To all listening, now that you have more information, ponder your options seriously and then please vote. On or before Tuesday, January 28th, early voting is already open, as long as the Supreme Court doesn't change things. And encourage your family, friends, and neighbors to vote thoughtfully. However, yes, okay, I get ahead of myself there. However, keep your eyes and ears on alert to hear the rulings in the 2 cases currently before the Supreme Court relating to this special election. Remember, Minnesota has Election Day registration if anyone needs to update their registration since November. when I hope you all voted. For polling place information or early voting sites, go to mnvotes.gov, the Secretary of State's website. Thank you for listening. Good night and good luck.
Thank you very much for having me.